Good morning everyone. I am Pooja Kumari Shah, B.Ed second semester trainee from Siliguri Tarai B.Ed College, and today I will be discussing the topic structure of the atom from NCERT chapter number 4, a topic from class 9 textbook. So to begin with, we are all familiar with the definition of an atom. We all know that atom is the smallest unit of matter, and we are all familiar with Dalton's atomic theory, which we have studied in the previous chapter. Dalton's atomic theory says that atoms are indivisible and indestructible. That is, they cannot be destroyed or created even during a chemical reaction. Now, this Dalton's atomic theory led to a massive failure with the discovery of subatomic particles. Now, what are subatomic particles? Subatomic particles, to put it in simple words, we can consider them to be the constituents of an atom. These are very small particles which are present inside an atom. That is why they are called subatomic particles. So initially only two subatomic particles were discovered, that is the negatively charged electrons and the positively charged protons. So after the discovery of these subatomic particles, there was a big question regarding their arrangement inside an atom and the structure of an atom. So regarding this question, many scientists have proposed many structures. So we will be going through them one by one. So first scientist who proposed the structure of an atom was J.J. Thomson. J.J. Thomson was the person who had discovered electrons. So he had proposed structure. Let us have a look at figure 4.1. As we can see, he proposed that an atom consists of a positively charged spheres and electrons are embedded in it. As we can see in the diagram, we have a positive sphere and electrons are embedded in it. This model is also called plum pudding model. Why is it called plum pudding model? Because Thomson had compared this model to a Christmas pudding. He said that electrons are embedded inside the sphere in such a way like dry fruits are arranged inside a pudding. And the second postulate of Thomson's model said that the positive charges and the negative charges are equal in magnitude and the atom as a whole is electrically neutral. Now Thomson's model was not accepted, although it was not accepted because the experiments conducted by other scientists did not match with this model. Like a number of experiments were performed regarding this, but the results were not quite satisfactory with the model. So this model was not accepted, but the fact that an atom is electrically neutral is true and it was proposed by Thomson. So we have this first model known as Thomson's plum pudding model, and after Thomson there was another scientist known as Ernest Rutherford. He also proposed another structure, but he had conducted a very famous experiment known as alpha particle scattering experiment. Now this experiment, as we can see in page number 48, diagram 4.2, this experiment is a very simple experiment. Basically, it is an interaction of the atoms of a gold foil with atoms of gold with alpha particles. Now, what are alpha particles? Alpha particles are nothing. They are doubly charged helium atoms. We can take it this way, that doubly charged helium atoms, these alpha particles are positively charged atoms, and the atoms of gold, we took a gold foil, a thin sheet of gold foil. These atoms of gold, they also contain protons, positively charged atoms. As I had told earlier, protons are subatomic particles that were discovered, positively charged particles. So we all know that positives repel. So Rutherford had expected that since these alpha particles were heavier than protons, he did not expect to see large deflections. So there were four main observations regarding this. So first observation was that most of the alpha particles went undeflected. Now when the gold foil was bombarded with alpha particles, most of the alpha particles, they went undeflected. As we can see in the diagram, first four lines, they are all straight lines. These are alpha particles and they are all undeflected. And we can also see the fifth line. We can see a small deflection out there. And then we can see a large deflection overlapping it. And in the towards the, as we move down, we can also see the particles rebounding. That is, they are going back to the position from where they came. So to explain this, Rutherford had drawn many conclusions. So let us have a look at this another diagram. It will be more clear. So Rutherford had put it in this way, that the alpha particles that went undeflected, it was because that they did not collide with any subatomic particle, and they were not near, or they were not even in close proximity with any kind of positive charge in the atom. So basically they went through an empty space. He concluded that these alpha particles went undeflected because they went through empty spaces. They did not collide with any subatomic particles, neither they came under the influence of any subatomic particle or any positive or negative charge. So this was the first observation, and second observation was a large deflection, as we can see, and third observation was the right angle approach, and fourth observation was the small deflection. So Rutherford put it in this way. He said that the large deflection was because there was he said that there was the positive charge inside an atom. It is accumulated in one like at one place. All the positive charge in an atom, it's accumulated at one place and forming a mass of positive charge. And this large deflection was because the alpha particles were in close proximity with that mass of positive charge. Now we all know that positives repel, so being in close proximity with that mass of positive charge would have caused the alpha particles to be repelled, and they repelled so bad that they went they underwent large deflections. And the rebounding was put forward as in that alpha particles must have approached the positive mass at right angle to it. That is, alpha particles must have approached straight away to the positive mass, and they were repelled from there and they rebounded directly. And the slight deflection was taken again as the alpha particle being far away from that positive mass. So Rutherford concluded that all the positive charge inside an atom is accumulated and at a center, a small mass known as nucleus. And the electrons revolve around the nucleus in circular paths, and the size of the nucleus is very small as compared to the size of the atom. But so basically Rutherford's model was somewhat similar to a solar system. We are all familiar with the solar system. We have seen sun is in the center and planets are revolving around in circular paths, circular orbits. So it was something like this. Nucleus was at the center. According to Rutherford, nucleus lied at the center, and the electrons were moving around it in circular paths. They were revolving around it in circular paths. Now this model was quite informative regarding the positive charge of an atom, regarding the nucleus, regarding the path of electrons, regarding the position of positive and negative charges, but it had a drawback. This was also not accepted. It is because we are all familiar with Maxwell's theory of electromagnetic radiation. It says that whenever a charge is accelerated, it will radiate energy. So likewise, we have a charge, negative charge, electron. It is moving in circles, and once it moves in circles, like it will be radiating energy. And what happens is, once it starts radiating energy, it will end up losing energy. And after losing energy, it might collapse inside an atom. So this model basically could not explain the stability of an atom. So this model was not accepted because it could not explain the stability. Obviously, atom is the smallest unit of matter. If an atom is unstable, how can we say that matter is formed of atoms? Atom has to be stable, only then matter will form. So to overcome this drawback, another scientist known as Niels Bohr, he proposed another theory. According to him, only certain special orbits known as discrete orbits of electrons are allowed inside an atom. And while revolving in these discrete orbits, the electrons do not radiate energy. Now, what are these discrete orbits? These discrete orbits are also known as energy levels. So this is a concept from higher classes, but to put it in simple words, we can take it this way, that each orbit is associated with certain amount of energy, and electrons are quite selective regarding these orbits. They will go to only to those orbits which, like, in revolving or in which if they revolve, their angular momentum will be quantized. So this angular momentum, this quantization, this is all concept from higher classes. Let's take it this way, that each orbit is associated with certain amount of energy, and electrons are quite selective with these energy levels. They do not just go and move around in any orbit. They only select those orbits in which they do not radiate energy. So Bohr's model, as we can see in figure 4.3, we have these orbits or shells. These are called energy levels. Energy levels are shown here. The black mass in the center is the nucleus, and beginning from inside we have the K shell, L shell, M shell, N shell, and these are also denoted by numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this was the model that was accepted, but this model, like, it has more detailings after the discovery of this model. After this model was accepted, neutrons were discovered. Another subatomic particles known as neutrons, these were discovered. Now how were these discovered, we will be discussing in the next class, and where I will be dealing with atomic number and mass number concepts. So this is all for today. So to sum up, we talked about the failure of Dalton's atomic theory with the discovery of electrons and protons. They are the subatomic particles present in an atom. Electrons are negatively charged, protons are positively charged. And we talked about Thomson's plum pudding model. Then we talked about Rutherford's alpha particle scattering experiment, the inferences he made from this experiment and the model he proposed. And then finally we talked about Bohr's model of an atom. So that's all for today. Thank you so much.